Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to us in such a sunny, beautiful day. I mean, it's an effort even to get out of bed on this kind of weather. So thank you. Before we begin, Karen, the organizer of this event, has asked me to have a very brief devotional, which is going to be a few minutes. Then April is going to introduce herself because I don't know what to say about her, other than thanking her for coming and being with us today. So if you don't mind, let us pray before we begin. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the wonderful gift of life and everything that comes with it, for being the sustainer and the giver of life. And as we want to know more about you and about the wonders you have done in this world, we pray your blessing upon each one of us, especially on our sister April this afternoon. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I was thinking to do a kind of a Bible quiz. I shall assume that most of you have some knowledge on the Bible. So let's see how good would you be able, or shall we be able to do this. So I will begin a sentence, and let's see how do we go, how far do we go. So it begins like this. In the beginning. Okay. So my fault, because both the Genesis and the Gospel of John begins with in the beginning. But I'm thinking of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness, okay, keep going, up on the and the deep. And the Spirit of God, we got stuck. Verse 3, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So it's very interesting, because if you without getting into any kind of argument about the age of the earth and the elements and what it means, but the Bible says that actually the first element that has existed. If I have to take the Bible literally, which I do, and again it goes way beyond my knowledge. It seems that the water was there at the beginning. So the first element, the first created element, or the first element, the first organized element was the water. And it was already there. It seems to be. I don't want to get, again, this can become a very complicated conversation, but it's interesting because the Bible mentions the water right at the beginning as being there, even at the beginning of the creation. And somehow we all know that water is very much related to life. 75% of the human body is water. We have water even in our bones. 75% of the brain is water. Sometimes you think you have more than that, but most of the time it's 75% of water. So life is fundamentally related to water. And it must be something about this very simple molecule. I haven't seen it. I don't know. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. So with this being said, um, there must be some kind of a correlation to use the water not only internally but externally. And April is going to share with us how the water can help us in improving our health this afternoon. And with this being said, thank you, April, for coming again. And if you don't mind telling us a few things about yourself, and then God bless your work this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Is this on? Okay. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation to come and share with all of you. You know, hydrotherapy, water, it is amazing, but yet so simple. And I'm from Weimar Institute. I've lived there for about 15 years, almost. I went there as a student for the first year, and then I began to work at New Start ever since then, after I graduated. And I took the medical missionary course, which is the massage and hydrotherapy. So the CMT stands for Certified Massage Therapist. And I sometimes have people guess as to what that means, and the silliest I've gotten is country music television. But it's something that we often, every month we have a program, 18-day session, and now we've incorporated 11-day sessions as well into each 18-day. And we get guests coming from anywhere all over the world. And stay there for 18 days. We teach them about lifestyle disease, you know, heart disease, high cholesterol, obesity, weight, those kinds of things, diabetes. And I work in the massage and hydrotherapy department of that program. And we give them treatments to those that come. We give them 8 treatments over 18 days. Because a lot of times people are suffering with pain, you know, with their health issues and different things going on that makes it hard for them to walk, so then they can't get out and get their exercise, and it's just a domino effect of things. And so we help them with feeling better. It's a great part of the job that we get to help you feel better. But I've been, like I said, working there for almost 14 years now at New Start, and have seen many, many people come and go, and many stories. I incorporate some of the stories into my lectures that I do, but I also, on top of giving treatments, I also give these natural remedy lectures every month to the guests that come through the program. I lecture on hydrotherapy, on food poultices from your kitchen, on activated charcoal. I've lectured on wild herbs and just those kinds of things. They're all things that God has given, and they're part of the nature that we can utilize to bring health to our bodies. And hydrotherapy is one of those. And so what I'm going to be doing today is laying a foundation of what hydrotherapy is, what happens with the hot, what happens with the cold, and then going into some of the basic treatments that you can do at home and how to do them on yourself at home. I'm not going to be going over every single detail, because you should have handouts that you received when you came in the door and registered. You were given a handout and the printout of the slides so that you can take this information home with you, and also so that you can not be so madly busy with writing a ton of notes. A lot of it's already down there for you, and you can be listening and watching. I'm just going to be doing dry demos. I'm not actually demonstrating on anyone, but it helps you to be able to see it as I talk about it. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, so I can't give medical advice. Okay, so if you come up afterwards and ask me a question of should I do this or not do that, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you, well, you could try this, or if I was in your case, I might do this, that kind of thing. All right? So what is hydrotherapy? It's actually 2 Greek words, hydor, which is water, and therapei, which is healing. So literally water healing. The definition there, that it's the therapeutic application of water in all of its forms, in the liquid, the steam, and the ice, to maintain or restore health. So a lot of people think of doing hydrotherapy or a treatment on themselves for, when they're sick and needing help with something, but you can do it when you're well as also, and it'll help to maintain your health. just like eating a healthy diet. You know, you don't just eat good food to get over being sick or get your heart healthy, and then once you're back to normal, you go back to the junk food that made you sick, right? You maintain that healthy diet. You can also maintain hydrotherapy for health as well. So why use water? Why go to the work of heating up a fomentation, which if you don't know what that is yet, you will at the end of the lecture. Why heat a fomentation instead of just plugging in a heating pad and having instant heat? Does anyone know what the difference would be? One is moist, that's right. Then that is because water is up to 27 times more efficient at conducting temperature than just dry air. And so that goes for whatever the temperature is. So for example, if you were to go into a restaurant and get permission to go into their walk-in freezer, let's say it's at 25 degrees and it's cold, dry air, and you walk in there and you stay there for 5 minutes, and then you come out and you time how long it takes you to warm back up, compared to if you dove into water that was 25 degrees, and you stayed there for 5 minutes, and then came out and timed how long it took you to warm up, guess which one is going to take a longer to warm up? Coming out of the water. Coming out of the water. Because in the freezer, it's just cold, dry air, so the coldness doesn't penetrate as deeply into the tissues as it does when you're in the water. Remember, water's up to 27 times more efficient at conducting temperature than just dry air. So it's getting more deeply into your core and causing hypothermia much more quickly than the freezer did. Same thing for heat. You can sit in a sauna, a dry sauna at, say, 160, 80, I've seen them at 190 degrees, and you don't burn. It's very hot, but you don't burn, right? Your skin doesn't burn. Compared to if you tried to put your skin, any part of your skin, into water that temperature, instant burn, right? Anything over 120 degrees will scald the skin. And so that is some examples of how efficient water is at conducting temperature to the body. And so when you understand that, then you can understand a little bit more of how hydrotherapy works. So this quote says that hydrotherapy can accomplish many of the same therapeutic goals as massage techniques do. Like massage, hydrotherapy can relieve discomfort and pain, stimulate the flow of blood and lymph, make connective tissue easier to stretch, and soothe many aches, pains, and injuries, warm tissues, and relax superficial muscles. So it's doing a lot. It's not just a fluff and buff to make you feel good for a treatment and that's all. It's doing a lot of changes in the body that's affecting your system, your circulation, your lymphatic, all kinds of things. And who doesn't know how just a 5-minute chair massage can relax you, right? For at least the next hour or more, even the rest of the day. Hydrotherapy has similar effects on the body. And so what we do at New Start is we combine those. So for the treatments that people come in to receive, we start with giving them a hydrotherapy treatment, and then we go into massage with the rest of the time, and we combine that. And actually, when you do that, I personally think that every massage therapist should know hydrotherapy, because 10 minutes of hydrotherapy will accomplish what it'll take 20 minutes of massage to do in warming up the tissues and getting things ready. So when we do hydro first, we call it hydro for short, when we do hydrotherapy first, we can go deeper, faster, and get more accomplished in a shorter amount of time with the massage time that we do. So combining those two together is very effective. So here you can see we have 3 blood vessels and 3 arteries. And in the center is the normal artery. It's got the muscle wall around it, and then the blood flow in the middle. Okay, so what happens whenever you apply heat to an area of the body, what happens to those blood vessels is it causes vasodilation, right, as you see on the left. And that muscle wall opens up, and the blood is drawn to that area. It's drawn to where the heat is applied. Whether it's full body and your whole body turns pink, that's the blood turning your skin pink, right? Or if it's just part body, if you only have your feet in hot water, then it's going to dilate the blood vessels there and draw the blood toward the feet. And the blood is what's carrying the oxygen, nutrients, white blood cells, all these things that tissues need for either repairing and or just being healthy, okay? What happens when you apply cold to the skin in any area, the blood vessels respond by doing vasoconstriction, as you can see on the far right. And that muscle wall is tightening up, kind of like you do when cold hits you. Like, we tend to tighten. And you can see a marked difference between the blood flow of the vasodilation and the vasoconstriction. And what's happening in the constriction is as the blood vessels are constricting, the blood is being pushed away from the skin, away from the surface, and it's carrying away toxins and waste matter with it. Okay, so when you combine the two and you do contrast treatments where you're going back and forth between hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, and cold, you're starting with hot, you're drawing the blood there, you're getting good oxygen and nutrients and white blood cells and all that stuff to the area, and then you go to cold and you constrict those blood vessels and you flush out the toxins and waste matter. And then you go back to hot and you bring that fresh blood back there and then you flush it out and you bring it back and you flush it out. That alone itself is causing a number of physiological effects on the body. So we're going to talk about specifically contrast treatments here and how they greatly increase the blood circulation, blood and lymphatic, which then promotes healing. Have you ever heard the quote, perfect health requires perfect circulation, right? What happens if a body part, even if it's just the tip of your finger, if that tip of your finger doesn't get blood, what's going to happen to it? It's going to die and fall off, right? Exactly. So you want to promote healing by promoting circulation. Contrast also causes reflexive stimulation of related tissues and organs. So in other words, when you're doing hot and cold to one area of the body, it's affecting somewhere else. So when you do hot and cold just to the feet, it stimulates the abdominal organs, the respiratory system, and the brain. If you do hot and cold to the hands, that'll stimulate the respiratory system and the brain. If you do hot and cold to the chest, that'll stimulate the kidneys, and so on and so forth. So when you're working one area, it affects somewhere else. Another example is how you can use this to your advantage if you have a broken arm or leg. Let's say if you have a broken right arm and it's in a cast and you can't get it wet, so you can't be doing hot and cold treatments to that broken arm, what you can do to increase the circulation to that broken side is do hot and cold to the left arm. And that will increase the circulation to the right arm by up to 25%. Same thing for the leg. If you've got a leg in the cast, then do hot and cold to the opposite leg, and it'll increase the circulation to that broken side, which then will promote the healing. Contrast also decreases musculoskeletal pain. We get that comment all the time when we're doing treatments with our guests that come. They're like, my pain is going away. Either it's already gone or it's greatly diminished. And it very much has an effect on helping with pain management. And it gives a strong feeling of invigoration. Has anyone here ever done a contrast shower? All right, can you attest that it left you feeling a bit invigorated? Right, because you end with that cold, right? It is invigorating. And because, again, it gets the circulation going. It gets things moving.
It reminds me of, well, my dad's side is Finnish from Finland, and that's what they do. They go in the sauna and they jump into the cold ice.
Cold lake or snow or something, yeah. Going from a hot sauna.
They make a hole, they jump
into the ice water. Yes. So that'll give a very intense feeling of invigoration. So, rules for all contrast treatments. This goes for whether it's full body or partial body, as in full body contrast shower or immersion bath or a foot bath or an arm bath, any of those, 3 to 5 minutes of hot and 30 to 60 seconds of cold equals 1 cycle, okay? And you want to do a minimum of 3 cycles and a maximum of 6. So that minimum would be hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. That's 3 cycles, okay? And the reason for the maximum of 6, it's not because you can't do more than that. It's actually because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, you remember those blood vessels, those little muscles, they're dilating and contracting every cycle. Well, that's just, that's a form of exercise for those muscles. And just like you working in the gym, and pretty soon those muscles get tired, right? They start getting fatigued. And so after 6 cycles of hot and cold, those blood vessel muscles are fatiguing. And so if you want to go beyond that, you need to make either your hot hotter and or your cold colder to stimulate those fatigued muscles into giving a good response, okay? The other reason is if you're doing contrast treatments to boost your immune system, they have done testing where they drew the blood and tested the white blood cell count at every cycle. And they found that the white blood cells increased from cycles 1 to 6, and then after that they just plateaued. And so for the greatest immune benefit, it was that 3 to 6 cycles of hot and cold. All right, so this is the one that not everyone really likes. That is always end with cold, right? Yes, ice baths. It's very popular nowadays, and there can be some benefit to it. It depends on temperature and time that you do it and your personal health condition. So there are contraindications for it as well, but it can be boosting to the immune system. So always end with cold, and that's what most people, including myself, don't really care for. Most people prefer the hot, and the cold is uncomfortable. Now, people from Nordic countries and things like that, they tend to enjoy the cold, which the majority of us don't understand. But they want to get over with the hot so they can get to the cold. But the reason for ending with cold, and I always tell this to our guests, it's not because we're sadistic, it's, you know, or anything. We don't want to torture you, because that's what they accuse us of. It's because we love you, and we end with that cold because we need to close the pores of the skin. So what happens is when hot is hitting your skin, that opens the pores, and the blood is right there at the surface of the skin, right? And so it's warming the blood to have it right there. And if you end with hot, you are then ending with those open pores and with the warm blood right at the surface. And what will happen is, after a few minutes, because the warmth of the blood is radiating out your open pores, you end up chilling afterwards. Whereas when you end with cold, you are closing the pores of the skin, and the blood is being pushed away from the skin, and so it's going deeper into the body. And what the body's reaction is after that final cold, and you turn it off or get up out of the cold, the body's response is to rush that warm blood back to the surface to warm up those chilled tissues. And so since your pores are closed and your blood is nice and warm, it actually leaves you feeling warm to end with cold. It seems opposite, but yes. No, you want to wait at least an hour after a meal to do hydrotherapy treatments, especially full body ones, because those, like a contrast shower, will take the blood away from the stomach and away from the digestion to go to the extremities. And so you want to wait at least an hour afterwards. And the more intense the treatment, the longer you wait. So if it was even more like a really hot bath, you might wait 2 hours after a meal. Now, as to other timings of when you do it during the day, that depends on what the treatment is and what you're doing it for. For example, we're going to be talking about a neutral bath in a bit. Well, those with anxiety might want to do that in the morning to help calm them for the day, but those with insomnia might want to do that right before going to bed at night to calm the nervous system. So the time of day that you do it depends on what you're doing it for. And there was another hand. Uh-huh.
What happens if you do the cold longer than 60 seconds? Will it damage your tissue?
It doesn't damage it, but it starts having an opposite effect. So the reason for the time frames for the hot and the cold is that those time frames are the stimulating time frames for hot and cold. When you start going beyond that 5 minutes of hot, you know, the first hot is kind of stimulating and it gets things going. But then you go beyond that and prolong it and it starts sedating and things start slowing down. And the same thing for the cold. That first minute of cold is very exciting. Woohoo! But then when you go beyond that minute, it starts having a sedating effect. And so for contrast treatments, that's combining the exciting times of both hot and cold so that it has a stronger stimulation on the body. To time it in the shower, there's waterproof timers that have suction cups. You can, yep. Or unless you want to count out loud, but that's a lot of counting for the 3 minutes especially. So always end with cold, close up those pores. And diabetics, it's best not to exceed 102 to 104. So that's the low end of hot. Hot's 102 to 110. This is on your handouts. 102 to 110. So diabetics need to stay at that lower end. And the main reason for that is that a lot of diabetics, not all, but a lot, have some level of neuropathy or lack of sensation, numbness. And you can't fully and accurately gauge the temperature. And so if you're giving someone a contrast foot bath that's a diabetic and they've got numbness in their feet and they're telling you, oh, that's not enough, put more hot water in, well, you can't go by that because they're not fully feeling the temperature of the water. And so you have got to go by a thermometer and take those from your kitchen. You can just use a meat thermometer that's made for kitchens and use them in your bathroom for hydrotherapy and for water. And because those probes will, like this one, it's a digital one, it will measure anything from -40 to 450 Fahrenheit. So it has got your range well beyond what you need for doing testing your temperatures. You can use it in the shower, yes. You can actually put it, because they're made for the kitchen, so they're not waterproof, right? So you can put that and poke a hole in the corner of a bag, take a cup with you into the shower, and a few times of testing it with you feeling it, you're going to get an idea of what those temperatures feel like. And you're not going to have to do that every time you go into the shower. But just take that in with you and test that out, and you'll say, oh, I like my hot around 106. And some people, oh, I like my hot around 110. And then others, you might need that extra oomph to help you get down into the cold range, because cold is 55 to 70. And a lot of times, we see this every session. We'll be giving someone a contrast shower, and I always tell them, okay, I'm going to start counting to 30 when it gets down to 80 degrees. And that sounds like a warm, balmy day outside, right? But 80-degree water is far different than just an 80 degrees outside kind of temperature. And sometimes, if they're not used to hydrotherapy, we're only down to 90, and they're like, and I'm like, we're at 90. Got a little ways to go. But yeah, 55 to 70 is the typical cold range. But you're not wanting to exceed that for diabetics because in the medical realm, the motto is do no harm. And so that applies to hydrotherapy as well. Do no harm. You don't want to even come close to burning someone, yourself or someone else, okay? So keep those temperatures down lower, and some can't even take 102. We've had some that can only take 100. Okay, that's all right. Do with what they can do. You don't have to push them. The cold doesn't matter for diabetics. They can go as cold as you want to put ice into for that 55 to 70. Don't go down in the 40s and 30s. That's painful, okay? But getting it down in that cold range. It's just the heat you have to be careful of. And that's because when you, say for a diabetic and you're doing contrast foot bath, because that's excellent to do for neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy, because it's increasing the circulation, it's stimulating the nerves, all those good things that will help with actually reversing diabetic neuropathy. We've seen it happen. But when the feet are in prolonged heat, like up to 20 minutes, if you're just doing a hot foot bath, what happens is that heat is penetrating much more deeply into the tissues, and that is increasing the metabolism of the cells. And as the metabolism of the cells increases, that increases the demand for oxygen. And for a diabetic, if they've got circulation problems, then their circulatory system may or may not be able to deliver the oxygen that is needed to meet that demand. And if not, then cells can be damaged and or die. And so that is why you want to be careful. So doing contrast is the way to go because it's only short spells of hot intermingled with cold. And so it doesn't have that effect on the body in the same way that just doing a hot foot bath with no cold would do. Does that make sense? All right, so for diabetics, you want to keep the hot low and you want to do contrast. So it's short spells of hot, contrasted with cold, and not do just prolonged heat treatments for them. Did I see a hand?
I'm curious, this is quite different than similar in sunlight. Sweat lodges, I mean, they're usually pretty long, but then the ones I've done, we jumped into a cold lake.
Sweat lodges are like saunas, that kind of thing. They're longer, prolonged heat. I don't recommend that as much for diabetics, again, as contrast foot baths, contrast showers, contrast immersion baths. They're needing the contrast for increasing the circulation issues. You need at least 20 degrees Fahrenheit difference between the hot and the cold to have a good, strong effect. Okay, so at least 20 degrees. So if your hot's 102, that's going down to at least 82, okay? But I always say, start with what you can tolerate. As I said before, not everyone can tolerate. We'll get people that come from the islands and they've never felt cold water in their life, and they're the ones that are like gasping at 90 degrees, you know? And so start with what you can tolerate. And I share this in a way of you giving these treatments to people, not just doing them for yourselves, because you want to share this knowledge, you want to share this information, but you want to do it wisely and skillfully. And so always get to people to, it's a matter of pushing beyond the comfort zone, but not past the tolerance. You get the difference? Okay, this is not comfortable, but I can do it, versus that was so horrible, I'm never going to do that again, kind of thing. That's what you don't want to hit, because if you do that and they've only done a treatment once in their life, did that really do them any good? It did for that moment, but it's not going to help them for prolonged the rest of their life when they could be repeating those treatments to help with increasing and restoring that health. And I say this because I had a client share with me one time. She would not let me get her into a contrast shower. And I kept assuring her, I won't push you past your tolerance. You communicate to me when it's too cold. I'll work with you. I'll only do what you can do. Nope, she wouldn't do it. And finally, by the second week, so I didn't force her. I'm not going to force someone to do this. So I'll do other treatments with her. Well, this one day I was giving her a treatment. This was in the second week, and she shared a story with me of how she had been traveling with a friend of hers, and her friend had ended her showers every day with cold for a long time, and she loved it, okay? And my client, she had never done that before, and so the client lady, I'll just call her Jenny, I don't remember her name anyways, Jenny was in the shower getting ready one morning, and her friend that ended with cold every day, she told Jenny, oh, when you're done, turn it down to cold. It feels really good. And Jenny was like, what? That sounds terrible. Oh, no, it's really good. You'll love it. And so she convinced her, okay, she would do that. So she finished her shower. She turned it all the way down to pure cold. And she said that was so miserable, she would never do that again. And then I understood why she would not let me get her into a contrast shower. And that was so awful that she didn't want that, and she had trusted her friend and did it, and so that didn't work out so well for her, so she wasn't going to trust me either. And so you don't want to give someone that kind of experience, is what I'm saying. So be mindful of that. So be mindful of that for yourselves, okay? Push past comfort, don't push past tolerance. All right, and as you do it, say you can only start with 10 degrees. As you do it, you will increase to 12, to 15, to 18, to 20. You'll work your way there, because the more you do it, the more the body gets acclimated to it. And the more you do it, the more you feel the benefits of it. And might not necessarily enjoy the cold. I've been ending my showers with cold every day for years. And I still don't enjoy the cold, but I still do it because I like how it makes me feel afterwards, and I obviously know the benefit of it, right? And so it's something that you will acclimate to. And training yourself in the shower that way also helps you with not getting sick as much or as often when the weather changes between seasons, because you're training your body to adapt to temperature change in the shower, and so when the weather has temperature change, it will adapt more readily and easily then as well. So you want to keep warm after the treatments, rest and drink water. So that resting period is giving the body what's called reaction time. Just because the treatment's over doesn't mean things suddenly stop in your body. A lot's still going on, and so you want to give it that rest period so that it can then, keep doing its good work and you get the full benefits of it. You want to keep warm, even though you are warm, you want to keep warm so that your body doesn't have to fight at staying warm, okay? And that can be easier, obviously, in the summer than winter. And drinking water, keeping well hydrated is important. Before, during, after, just consistent hydration is very important for the body. And for treatment-wise, if you are chronically dehydrated, treatments are going to be harder for the body to tolerate. And if you're consistently dehydrated, your muscles will be more painful, okay? So keep drinking that water, internal use of water combined with your external use. Okay, so there we go. Whoop. A contrast shower or bath. So this will be the first treatment on your handouts there, the printed handout. And we're going to go over a few things. The one that has all the lettering on it, not the slides. You're going to see how that there is columns on your handouts, and that at the tops it'll say purpose, indication, cautions, equipment, and then the procedure. So before you do any of these treatments, you want to be sure that you read all of that, but especially the cautions column, because water's not innocuous. You can do harm in giving yourself or someone else a treatment if they have a certain health condition that contraindicates it or should not be done for that health status. And so that's what the information is there on your handouts for, under the cautions. Either you need to modify it or you need to not do it. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out to you. But a contrast shower or contrast bath, a lot of people don't have as much access to equipment where they could do a contrast bath, but some people will do it by a hot tub or jacuzzi and a swimming pool, or a hot tub and you can jump out and spray yourself with a cold garden hose. Woohoo, that's cold, right? And you can even get large watering troughs. They come in different sizes, watering troughs for animals. And you can fill that up with the cold water from your garden hose and then go from that, the hot tub, into the watering trough and back and forth. So there's different ways of doing it. My sister, in her bathroom, she has a tub and then the shower's right next to it. So she fills the tub with hot and then she jumps into a cold shower and goes back into the hot tub and then up into a cold shower. And so you can do, find a way of doing it that way, or you can just do the hot and cold in your regular shower as well. My personal favorite is the bath because it's a little more intense than the shower. And it makes you feel it makes me feel very relaxed, but invigorated at the same time. It's a wonderful feeling. Okay, so these treatments increase your blood circulation, as we already talked about how they do, and increasing, boy, that jumped a bunch, your immune system. It also moves your lymphatic fluids. Your lymph system does not have a pump like our blood system does, right? And so basically the only way to move your lymphatic fluids is exercise. And hydrotherapy is a passive form of exercise because it's dilating and contracting those blood vessels, right? And so it helps with moving the lymphatic system. And it increases your white blood cell count because it causes the bone marrow to release the white blood cells into your bloodstream. And so that helps with boosting the immune system. It also increases your metabolism. And so if you're wanting to lose weight or some such thing, then you can be doing contrast treatments along with your diet and exercise, right, to help with that boosting of the metabolism. And it has the potential for increasing your self-control. Any guesses why that would be? How would a contrast full body treatment help you increase your self-control? Yeah, not to get out of it too soon, right? You've got to make yourself do what's uncomfortable, right? And as I said, most people don't like the cold, so most people have to make themselves do the cold and not get out of it too soon. And that's exactly right. So at New Start, we therapists are in control of that cold, and we're just your cheerleaders and encouragers. You can do it, and helping you do that. But when you're at home, you're your own therapist, right? And you've got to do that yourself. You've got to turn that shower down to cold. And sometimes that's not so easy.
Does a cold shower help burn calories?
Does a cold shower help burn calories? Well, it depends on how long you're going to be doing that cold shower. But the contrast shower in increasing the metabolism, yes, it'll help in burning some extra calories for a time span, yes. Oh, for the immersion bath, it's up to the shoulders. The water's up to the shoulders, as deep as you can, yes. And then full body cold to the same areas. So I have a friend who despises cold. She's a coworker, a therapist as well. And so she decided she heard me give these lectures, and she decided to do a contrast shower every day and just see what that did for her self-control. And she found that after, I think, 3 weeks or so, she found that she was having better discipline in other areas of her life because she was making herself discipline herself in the shower to do something she didn't want to do and uncomfortable. And so, who knew that hydrotherapy could be character building, right? So get yourself to do that. Let's see here. We have contrast shower do's and don'ts. You do want to turn around. You want to raise your arms in the hot and the cold. The tendency is to clamp the arms down, right? But there's a lot of lymph nodes under there. And so hitting where the lymph nodes are with the hot and the cold is very good to do. You want to end with cold, as I already explained why. You don't want to hold your breath and tense your muscles, when you're going to cold. And that can be the typical reaction, but that does two things, right? So actually tensing against the cold makes the cold feel a little bit colder, unfortunately. And the other thing is, when you're tensing your muscles against it, it's tightening the muscles around those blood vessels. And so then the blood can't flow as freely. And so you're hindering that circulation process, and you're hindering the flushing out of the toxins and waste matter. So you want to keep the muscles relaxed when you're going to cold. And a good way to do that is to take slow, deep breaths, because it's harder to tense the muscles when you're breathing deeply than it is when you're just taking normal breath. It's not impossible. You can still take deep breaths and tense your muscles, but it's harder. And so it's a reminder for you to keep relaxed, keep your shoulders relaxed. You know, people have their shoulders going up to their ears in the cold water. Always relax, relax. Okay, breathe. And really, it's the first 5 to 10 seconds that's the worst. That's the most shocking. And once you've got that initial shock over, then again, it's still not comfortable, but it's not that shock the full 30 to 60 seconds. Okay? Yes. Sure. Sure. Well, the hot would be a comfortable hot. And again, if you're diabetic, make that on the lower side of hot. Otherwise, if you don't have circulation issues or numbness issues, it's just hot to your tolerance. For the cold, a good gauge for that is your face. So the skin of your hands and your face are made to be exposed to the elements more than the rest of your body. And so it has a different effect. And so what feels cold to your core might only feel cool to your face if you put it in the shower water. So when I learned this, when I first learned it, I had been ending my showers every day with cool. You know, I didn't go all the way down to pure cold because I thought, oh, that's got to be 20 degrees, you know, that's fine. So when I learned that about the going down to where it's cold to your face, the first time I did it, I did my regular, you know, turning it down where I usually did and taking a deep breath and breathing. And I stuck my face in there and it was only cool. And I was like, oh man, I need to go colder. And so I went to where it was cold to my face. And then you know you've got a good cold. And you've got at least that 20 degrees or more difference between the hot and cold to gauge it by your face. So good question. All right. You don't want to end with hot. I already explained why. Or go beyond a minute of cold. Again, because that starts having the sedating effect rather than the stimulating effect. Okay. So that was a contrast shower. This is a cool down shower, and it's not a full treatment in and of itself. Yes?
Sorry, my husband's asking, do you include your head when you're doing the contrast shower, or do you leave your head out?
You can include the head. Yes, some people like to do it, some don't. Those that have more headache or migraine issues might find that that can trigger a headache or a migraine for them, so you have to be careful with that. I have known one lady who she gets migraines, and so she can only do contrast from her shoulders down, because if she does it to her head, it'll trigger a migraine. And so for other people, it seems to help them. And so you kind of have to do it and see how it affects your body as well. And I saw another hand.
While you're standing in the shower for the hot and cold, you just turn the cold up until you can stand it, and then freeze the same way, because you're not going to be getting out checking your hot water to see if it's hot enough. But when you're standing it, you just kind of turn the knob until you can stand it hot or cold.
Correct. Yes, doing it right in the shower, and the faster the changes, the better, because it has more of that shocking factor between the hot and the cold. Yes.
Another thing, I was just thinking about like traditional Finnish saunas, and you put water on, you know, you have the bucket, and you throughout the sauna, you could put it over your head, the cold water, and it'll cool you down. It does the same effect, I guess, the
Well, that's going to cool down the hot water. And so you can't do hot and cold in the same tub. Right. So that's why some people, like I said, my sister puts hot water in the tub, gets up in the cold shower, and goes back and forth that way. Or some people will have 2 bathrooms close by each other, but they have to run between one and the other. And one's lady like, I have another one upstairs. I'm like, no, you can't be running up and downstairs. You need to have quick changes. And so that's why if you've got something, a hot tub and a pool next to each other, you can do quick changes there. You can do quick changes in a shower. You can do quick changes between a hot tub and a watering trough, things that are close by and handy. And if you want to, splashing yourself with cold water, that's going to help, but it's not going to have the same effect as having that 30 to 60 seconds in nothing but the cold, full body. All right, so a cool down shower, it's not a treatment in and of itself. It's the way of ending a full body treatment, such as you see there, a sauna, a hot bath, a Russian steam bath, those kinds of things. Whenever you're in a full body heat treatment, you then need to do something to get the sweat off and to close the pores. And so a cool down shower is one way of doing that. Cold mitten friction is the other way, which we're going to talk about at the end. But cool down shower is simply getting out of the heat treatment and going into a warm shower, rinse the sweat off, and when you're ready, you do your 30 to 60 seconds of cold, and that's it. It's a cool down shower, okay? So it's getting the sweat off, and then it's closing your pores, and you're done. It's not a contrast shower where you're going back and forth between hot and cold, okay? So full body heat treatment, get out of that, go into a warm shower, and then do your cold. And that is a cool down shower. All right, so next is contrast foot bath and hot foot bath. We're going to talk about contrast first. So you can see you simply need 2 containers of water that are going to hold one of hot and one of cold. And there's your temperatures there, which is also on your handouts. You can use dish pans, you can use trash cans, you can use basins, buckets, 5-gallon buckets, whatever's going to hold water. Some people like to do it in 2 canning kettles things. Just something that's going to hold one of hot and one of cold. And you're going to be sitting on the chair. And you've got both of them there, and you're going to need to boil some water before you do the treatment, because in whatever container you use for the hot, it is going to lose a lot of its heat during that treatment time. And so you're going to be needing to add hot water to the hot basin during the treatment to keep that temperature stable. So you're going to need a timer, and you're going to need your thermometer, okay? And if your cold doesn't come in cold enough, get a pitcher of ice so that you can be adding ice to the water to get it down into that range. And then I like to also be throwing in a little bit of ice every time after their hot feet have been in the cold water, because that warms it up a couple degrees. And so throw a little bit of ice in there and keep that at the cold level as well. So what they're going to do is, whether this is for you or for someone else, you're going to start with the hot water, and you're going to have tested what the temperature is before the feet hit the water, okay? You can't trust how it feels to your hand. Again, the hand can tolerate more temperature change, the hands and the face, than the rest of the body. And so you can't trust how it feels to the hand. If you don't have a thermometer, use a more sensitive area of the body, such as the wrist or the elbow, okay? Like moms put baby's milk on their wrists to check the temperature. So the wrist or the elbow is more sensitive. But in our culture and world right here in the US, everybody should be able to have a $12 thermometer, okay? And the digital ones, not the dial ones. The dials take too long to read. You want it to read faster. So you start, you get your timer going for the 3 to 5 minutes, and then time for cold. So they put it over in the cold. And what I like to do is, while they have their feet in the cold water, I am then getting my thermometer, and pouring in some hot water, stirring that in, and getting it up to temperature so that by the time that minute of cold is over, it's ready for them to just put their feet in. And I have never poured boiling water into the basin when their feet are in that basin, okay? You don't want to risk burning them, okay? Do no harm. And if you actually burn the feet of a diabetic, that can literally be a life-threatening injury. So always be mindful of not burning. And so they're going to do, now I had my hot feet in that one, so I would then put a little ice in there, cool it down a bit. And then again, when they're over in the cold, I'm getting that back up to temperature, and then they get back over, and we just do that 3 to 6 times, ending with what? Cold, that's right, okay. In the hot for 3 to 5 minutes, in the cold for 30 to 60 seconds. Yes. And ending with cold. And thoroughly dry the feet afterwards. Have towels, get in between the toes and everything, because you don't want to be encouraging fungal growth, especially if they're going to be putting socks and shoes back on. You want to get the feet nicely dry. Okay? And then that's the end of a contrast foot bath. So a hot foot bath, you can do that with or without the blanket. So with the blanket, it turns it into a full body heat treatment, okay? And so because it's a full body heat treatment, they then have a towel that's cold on the head to keep the head more comfortable. So when you're in full body heat, whether a bath or foot bath or sauna, it is wise and recommended to keep the head cool with cold cloths. You can tolerate the heat better and longer when you keep the head cool, okay? And if you don't and the head gets overheated, after the treatment, it can leave someone with a headache that is hard to get rid of because their head got overheated, okay? So important to keep the head cool. So that's why you see a cloth on the head. Now, it's hard to find hydrotherapy pictures. If you Google that, all these pool therapies come up as hydrotherapy, and that's not what I'm looking for. But in this picture, please ignore how they're pouring in hot water with their feet in the basin, okay? You don't do that. They need to be lifting their feet out of it. You pour in a little bit and stir it so there's no hot pockets for them. And then they put their feet back down in. You don't pour the boiling water in while their feet are in the basin, okay? So just ignore that part. But like I said, this can be done with or without the blanket. So a lot of times people will do it without the blanket, and it's just a hot foot bath for if women have abdominal cramps during their menstrual cycle, or if someone has a headache or a migraine, because it helps to deviate the blood down towards the feet. So you can have a headache because there's blood congestion in the head. And so putting the feet in hot water is going to help draw the blood down. It helps with sinus congestion and chest congestion for the same thing. For headaches, it can help at any point of the headache. For migraines, if you can do a hot foot bath at the onset, as soon as you know one is coming, then you might be able to stop the migraine, possibly. But the longer a migraine gets a hold of you, the harder it is to stop it. And so if it's gotten going and it's gotten a good foothold, you can still do a hot foot bath. It's most likely not going to take the migraine away, but it can help in decreasing the severity of it, okay? So if you just do it without the blanket and it's just hot water to the feet, then the feet are in the hot water for up to 20 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, anywhere in there. And then you have them lift the feet out, you have a pitcher of cold water, and you just pour some cold water over the feet, or you have another basin of cold and they immerse in that cold for a little bit, and then you thoroughly dry the feet. If you did it with the blanket and turned it into a full body heat treatment, you're not only keeping the head cool during the treatment, but you need to end with full body cold because they are sweating. It's full body heat. So you need to do either a cool down shower, as I just talked about, or the cold mitten friction, okay? So whenever it's full body heat, you end with full body cold. And then they dry off and go rest, and that's the treatment. All right, Russian steam bath. So Russian steam bath is similar to a hot foot bath, except it is more intense because you are adding a source of steam underneath a chair. So you wouldn't want to do this on a metal chair, as I hopefully you could understand why. You wouldn't really do it on a cloth chair either because you're going to be steaming the chair. Wooden chair is what most people use. But this hot plate is going to be fully under the chair, not halfway out and in, but just push that all the way under the chair, and that is your source of steam. And then they have a hot foot bath there, okay? So you have your kettle of hot water that you've boiled ahead of time, and then you have a pot of water. Put a couple of inches of water there, get it boiling, and then you're going to put it on a hot plate. I don't have a hot plate, but we're just going to pretend that this is one. So this is your hot plate and your hot water, and that's under your chair. At the front of the chair, you are going to put a towel that's a couple of layers thick, because that will protect the back of the legs from getting burned from the steam that's under the chair, okay? And so this treatment requires 2 people, because then the person receiving it has to be wrapped up like you see in the picture on the right. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a large bed sheet, flat bed sheet, at least a queen size, and you're going to unfold that and wrap it around them, around the hot foot bath and the chair, as you see there. And you're going to get like clothespins or something to clip it together. You don't want any air pockets, no air vents for the steam to escape, because you want them to have a steam bath, right? We're bathing the body with steam. And then around the sheet that's around them, you want to put like a heavy wool blanket or just the heaviest blanket that you have. And if you don't have that, you can wrap them with a shower curtain, or you can get those really large, extra large trash bags and put a hole at the top and put that over them. Some kind of tent to surround them to hold in that steam, okay? And then oftentimes around the neck, like if you have a wool blanket around them, around the neck can get a little scratchy. So I will tuck in, that's covering my microphone, I'll tuck in a hand towel around the neck to keep it more comfortable and to keep any steam from coming up and burning the face or the ears or that kind of thing. But this is a full body heat treatment, and it's a way of doing like a sauna treatment at home without a sauna. And you've got your steam source under there, under the chair. And so you're checking to make sure that the foot bath is at a good temperature, and you might need to have them take their feet out for you to add some more hot water to that, heat it up again. And as they're sweating it out, you've got a basin of ice water here, and you've got a cup of water with a straw, because they don't have use of their arms, right? So as they're sweating it out, you want them to be drinking it back in. So you give them water to drink, okay? So we don't want them to dehydrate by giving them this heat treatment. And then we have this basin of ice water next to them, so that we have either a hand towel or a washcloth in here, and we can be cooling the face, and we can be wrapping the head with the hand towel and keeping their head cool and comfortable, okay? Some people even like the ice cubes rubbed on their face. And if their nose itches, you need to scratch it for them. So this is something where you're in the Russian steam bath generally for 10 to 20 minutes. It can be to their tolerance. Again, under the cautions column, you want to read that. Like if there's been lymph node removal, you wouldn't go beyond 15 minutes, and different things to watch out for. but usually 10 to 20 minutes. But I do emphasize to their tolerance because I have seen both extremes in the clients that come through New Start. So I had this one lady where I got her into the Russian steam bath at New Start. We have this cabinet and it's just their head is out of the cabinet while the body is getting steamed. And after 4 minutes, she was like, okay, I'm ready to get out. And I almost laughed because I'm like, she just got in there. I thought she was just starting and she was just being funny. No, she was serious. She was ready to get out. She felt cooked. And so, okay, I got her out and did a cool down shower with her. Compared to another lady I had in another session, she was like, oh, I really want a good sweat. Can we do the Russian steam bath today? And don't worry about giving me a massage. I just like my whole time to be in the steam bath. Can we do that? I was like, okay, that's your choice. You want to skip massage? We'll do that. So I get her in there, and she's all steaming away. I'm keeping her head cool. I'm giving her water to drink and all this stuff. And, oh, she's loving it. And after 45 minutes, I said, okay, it's time to get you out. We need to get you in the shower. And, oh, do I have to? This feels so good. You know, so there was a huge difference of tolerance there between those two women, right? But in general, most people are 10 to 20 minutes. And it is pretty intense. It's actually kind of more intense than just a dry sauna because it's steam. And so that's adding the moisture aspect to it, that humidity, which makes the hot feel hotter. And so it's more intense. You do want to have a stack of hand towels with you for this treatment because if they start getting a hot spot, I call it, because sometimes when the steam comes up, it depends on where it's hitting the skin. Sometimes they'll feel like, oh, my left arm is starting to burn on the shoulder area. Well, then I would either unwrap it or hand it to them underneath, and then they could take that towel and cover that left shoulder so that then, okay, it's not burning anymore, you know, or wherever it is, if it's on the leg or the back. Yes? What clothing do you wear in a Russian steam bath? That is usually a swimsuit. The more skin exposed, the better. So swimsuits or shorts and a tank top or t-shirt type thing, you know, the less the better, but it doesn't have to be completely nothing.
Is that a good treatment for anybody with Lyme disease?
Yes, because it's going to boost the immune system. Full body heat. Contrast and full body heat boost the immune system.
Do you ever put herbs in yours, like pine needles, herbs?
In the foot baths? Oh yeah, you can add all kinds of herbs to it or essential oils. We use a lot of essential oils. It depends on what it is. Like for in the sauna, for the water we put over the hot rocks, we like to put eucalyptus and or peppermint because those are both good for respiratory. You know, sometimes if they don't have issues, we just do what makes them happy and smells good. But there's a lot of different ones. Lavender for relaxation and such.
Yeah, I put lavender and pine needles on from like the mountain up here.
Yeah,
Pines,
yeah,
my friends, and
it's excellent. Yes.
And the contrast issue is a lot of water supplies are compromised.
Mm-hmm.
Chlorine is typically 1 municipal water, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of other things. So how does that
Yeah.
affect all
Well, like chlorine and issues in your city water such, you can get filters for your showers. And that's what I have on my shower is a filter so that I'm not soaking all that in myself because that is, I personally don't want that going into me. So, yeah. Okay, so when you're done with your Russian steam bath, you unwrap them and they get up and you end with either a cool down shower or cold mitten friction. Again, because this was a full body heat treatment, okay? So you gotta end with the full body cold. All right. Hot bath. So a hot bath is exactly that. It's a hot bath, and the temperature is usually, again, between 102 and 110, and you can be in this hot bath anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. And That is something that you can add things to the water if you want to. You'll see some suggestions there on your written handouts, your typed up handouts, where there is, you can do a charcoal bath, adding a cup of charcoal to your water. But that depends on what material your tub is made of, okay? Big disclaimer here. I will not be responsible for you staining your tub, because I let you know, if you have a porous material tub like fiberglass, then charcoal will stain your tub, and it won't necessarily scrub out. But if you have, you know, some of the harder, denser materials, porcelain, enamel, at New Start we have stainless steel tubs, you know, so that easily washes off. But depending on your tub material, you can or cannot do a charcoal bath. Charcoal is excellent for pulling toxins out and detox. But another detox is a cup each of Epsom salt, baking soda, and sea salt. That's on your handout as well, and that can be another option for detoxing that won't stain the tub. You can put essential oils in, you can put herbs in the bath water, you can do bubble baths, you can do whatever you want to, or you can just do nothing and just have the hot bath. But you can, another option on there is oatmeal. So you can grind up a very fine cup of oats and throw that into your bath water for an oat bath. That's very good for skin conditions. Oats have chemical properties that help with things like psoriasis and dermatitis and eczema and those kinds of things, rashes. So doing an oat bath, and that oat water needs to be on that skin area for at least 20 minutes. And some people will just get up out of the bath and dry off. Others notice that it does leave a little bit of a film on the skin, and so they get up and rinse that off and then get out. But either way you do it, that's up to you. Help poison oak or poison ivy in oat bath. For some people it does. I have heard of oat poultices helping with that, and then for others it doesn't. So just do it and see. It's not going to hurt to try it for sure, and it might help. So yeah, so your hot bath, 10 to 30 minutes. If you're going to be doing it for 10 minutes or less. Well, that would be.
So if you're in the hot bath, it's going to open up your pores, so then that will just contaminate and make it worse.
And go through.
I really do, actually.
Okay.
Oak and ivy, and oh my gosh, that would kill me.
Yeah.
I would think it might spread.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, if you still have the oil on the skin, then yeah, that can. But you can do a neutral bath with the oats in the water, which we're going to talk about neutral bath next.
Maybe one of your questions is, how do you get the oats from not going, like clogging up your...
Well, you grind it into a fine powder, and you don't do more than a cup, because if you do that, you're going to be clogging up your drain pipe. And the same thing with the charcoal. You don't do more than a cup, because you don't want to be clogging the pipes with it. Yes, but if you don't want to be doing that route, another way you can do it for the oat bath is to put the cup of oats unground into like a muslin bag and hang it over the faucet and have that there while the tub is filling with the hot water, and that way the hot is flushing through the oats and getting the properties into the bath water without the oats themselves being in the bath water. And then you can drop that bag into the bath with you, so it's like infusing like a tea. And you can use that, rubbing it over that area of the body that has the issue, getting more of the oat property on it, and keeping the oats out of the water. So if you're going to, like I say, do it for 10 minutes or less, then you don't necessarily have to worry about keeping the head cool and drinking water. But if you're going to be doing it for 10 minutes or longer, then you want to have a basin of ice water, and you want to have a cup of water to be drinking. So as you're sweating it out, you're replacing it and putting it back in, okay? And you're keeping your head cool in the full body heat treatment, all right? And then it's full body heat. So what are we going to end with? That's right. And that's going to be either a cool down shower or cold mitten friction. Right? These are our two ways of ending full body heat. All right. Neutral bath. So, neutral bath is a chill pill. And that is because of its effect on the central nervous system. So the temperature of the water is close to the body's own temperature. And you'll see on your handouts that range is 94 to 98. That is neutral zone. When you get below that, below 94, it goes into a cool bath. When you get above 98, that's getting into a warm bath. But neutral, 94 to 98. And what that is when you're in water that is that temperature, the central nervous system recognizes that there's no threat on either side. This isn't hot, so I don't have to be working to keep you from getting overheated. This isn't cold, so I don't have to be working to keep you from getting hypothermia or getting chilled. I can just relax, chill, right? Yes. And so that is, you have to be in a neutral bath for a minimum of 20 minutes in order for it to get that effect on the nervous system, because the nervous system doesn't just immediately quiet down, right? It has to have a little bit of time to calm down and to recognize, hey, what's going on? Ooh, nothing's going on. Okay. Huh. And the whole point with neutral baths is nothing stimulating. So not only the water temperature is not stimulating, but you don't want bright lights, you don't want loud music, you don't want to be chitter-chattering with someone. You just want nothing stimulating. If you're going to have music, have it calm, quiet, and only instrumental, not even words, because then your brain's going to be focusing on the words, right? Just lights off or dim or candles or something. Very calming. And then also when you get out of the neutral bath, you want to then only dry off by pat drying. Okay, again, because if you start rubbing your skin, that is stimulating to the skin, and you're going to lose some of that chill pill effect. So just pat dry, or some people will even, they have their terry cloth bathrobes, and they'll just get up out of a neutral bath, put their terry robe on, and naturally drip dry. So that's even less stimulation than pat drying. You do have to monitor the temperature of the water. You have to have a thermometer for this treatment, and you have to have it with you throughout the treatment and be testing it to make sure it never drops below 94. Because if it does, the body's going to start recognizing that, hey, things are getting a little cool here, and the nervous system is going to start working to keep you from chilling. So you have to monitor that and keep the temperature stable. If you need to add hot water in, then the way to do it is you turn that hot water on and you gently stir it in. You're not going to be doing even stimulating with adding the hot water, okay? Just gently stir that in until it's up in that range again, and then you can continue soaking. And like I said, you need a minimum of 20 minutes, but there is no maximum time for a neutral bath. You can be in that for hours. You can be in it all day if you want to, as long as you keep the temperature stable within that 94 to 98. So I had one here and then there.
So if you're using a hot tub, you're not turning any of the jets on?
A hot tub, well, usually hot tubs are like around 102 to 104 degrees. So you'd have to get that down into a neutral range. And then yes, you can be in that with no jets on and use that as a neutral bath. Right, because you don't want it stirring the water, because if that's stirring against the skin, again, that's stimulating. No, it doesn't go below 90, it doesn't go above 98. 94 to 98, that's your only range you've got to stay within that neutral temperature, okay? So 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, that's it. All right? And so this was not a full body heat treatment. So you do not end with cold. Okay, if you end a neutral bath with cold, you're going to completely lose the whole effect because that's going to be shocking to the system. So this is, it's not a contrast treatment, it's not a hot treatment, it's neutral, it's of its own, and that's it. So you just dry however you like, either pat dry or drip dry. And like I said at the beginning, this is the treatment where it helps with anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, insomnia, those kinds of things because of calming the nervous system down. And so depending on what you're doing it for, if you're doing it for anxiety or depression, it'd be good to do that at the beginning of the day to help you be calm throughout the day. If you're doing it for insomnia, do that right before going to bed so that it'll help you to sleep better. Okay, so depending on what you're using it for, depends on the time of day that you would do it. And it's not such a chill pill that if you do it in the morning, it's just going to knock you out for the day, okay? You're still going to be able to function. It's just going to calm the nervous system.
So what would be better, that taking that bath before bedtime or the shower?
Bath. For insomnia, it's better to do the bath because the shower, with the water being sprayed on the skin, it's more stimulatory. But if you don't have the tub, we have had that situation as well. So the tub is the ideal way. Someone that didn't have a tub option did that with the shower. They took the thermometer with the cup in there to make sure they had the right neutral temperature, and they did a neutral shower instead right before bed, and that did help them somewhat with their insomnia. Not as much as a tub would, but it was helpful. And so that would be plan B if you can't do plan A. All right. Steam inhalation. So this one is a very useful one to do if you've got congestion, sinus congestion, chest congestion, cold, things that are affecting your respiratory system. As you can see there, this person's sitting at the table with a towel over their head. And so what you want to do is have a steam source. So you boil some water, and then you're going to be sitting at a table, and you can fill a bowl or a pan with that boiling water, and then you're going to simply do what you see there, cover the head with a regular bath towel, and breathe in that steam. Now you can add eucalyptus leaves or drops to that. You can add chopped up onions to that because onions are really good for opening up respiratory issues. And have hot water next to you, as you can see, so that as that's cooling off, you can be adding more to it to keep breathing that steam. And you can breathe that usually up to about 20 minutes of breathing the steam in. But you just want to be careful that you don't burn your respiratory system, you don't burn your face or your eyes. And so lean over gently, breathe in gently, see how it goes. If you need to open up a space and let some fresh air in because it's too hot, let some of that steam escape so that it doesn't burn you. Just common sense, be mindful. No burning allowed ever on any treatments. That's not part of hydrotherapy or health. Asthma. For some people it does help asthma, and for others it can trigger it. So you have to be careful with that.
If you have COPD, you should never do this.
Right, or if you have congestive heart failure too, you don't. So those kinds of things, yeah. So that's why the information is on your handouts as to what you don't use it for, okay? Yes?
Now, why can't you do it with congestive heart failure?
Too hard on the system, yeah. And so this is, like I said, you're going to have a timer, and you're going to time that for up to 20 minutes or so. And then have a cold, you're going to have Kleenex next to you because this is going to make your nose drip, and you're going to need to be blowing it now and then, okay? And then I also have before I even sit down to do it, I'll have a washcloth that I get wet with cold water, and it's there and ready so that when I'm done with the treatment, I take the towel off and then I wipe my face down with the cold cloth and get all the sweat off and everything and close up the pores in my face, and that's the treatment. Someone can do this in bed. If they're bedridden and can't sit at a table to do that, then something you can do is umbrella and open up that umbrella, set it next to them, and then cover it with a sheet so that it creates like a little tent that's covering their whole head area. And then you have the hot water on a little table right next to the bed that is then putting the steam into that little tent you created with the sheet and umbrella, and they're breathing that in, okay? And that's a way for them to be able to do a steam inhalation, sedentary or bedridden. A vaporizer can do a similar thing, yes, yeah. So that is your steam inhalation. All right, contrast hot fomentations. Now this is another one that is can be literally life-saving. So if you're going to learn a treatment, learn this one and practice it. So this is the picture is for a full-blown respiratory treatment. Okay, so that's with doing the hot foot bath for the feet. You have a hot fomentation, which is a moist heat. I'll talk about how to prepare that. They're laying on that at the back, and you're doing cycles of hot and cold to the chest. Okay, and then you're keeping everything from the shoulders up cold. So you have cold compresses on the neck or over the eyes, over the forehead, that thing. So everything from the shoulders down is hot, and from the shoulders up is cold. Now that is the most intense treatment for respiratory issues. You can see I've written there that you can also do contrast fomentation treatments for other parts of the body. It's not just for respiratory, but this literally saves lives. This is a treatment that they did in 1918 for the Spanish flu, and those that received this treatment are the ones that survived that. So a fomentation is simply a thick pad that you get wet and then you heat it so that it's steaming, and that creates your moist heat. That's a fomentation. It's kind of a funny word, but I have one that the fomentation pad fell apart in the washing machine because it's very old, and so you can see how there's numerous layers inside here, and I counted there's about 7 layers inside of material with the 2 outside layers, so there's 9 layers of material here that you then have to have a heavy-duty sewing machine to stitch together. And when it's not falling apart, it can look like this. So this is a typical size foamy pad. We call them foamies for short. And you can get them in different sizes. You can get them a little bit longer. You can get the little sinus pack ones that will just go over the sinuses or over a neck or over one joint. But the whole idea is you get this wet, both sides, and you roll it up. And you don't want to roll it tight because you want it to get heated in the center as well. And then you heat it. And on your handouts is 4 different ways of heating your fomentations. I'm not going to go through all those details because it's written down for you. But you can do it either in a microwave or in an oven or in a steaming kettle, like a canning kettle or a hot tamale steamer, a real big pot that you can steam them, or if you're doing fomentations with a towel, by getting a towel wet and you don't have any of those other methods, you can boil a big pot of water and roll up your towel and then stick the towel down in the boiling water and wring that out, and that center part that's now steaming hot is your fomentation, okay? So whatever method you use, towels or pads, you can order these pads. The lady that makes them, her name is Valerie. She lives in Tennessee. Her name and number is on your handouts, the written handouts. And as far as I know, she is the only one in the US, to my knowledge, that still makes these. And you call her up, tell her how many you want, and she'll ship them to you, and you mail her a check, kind of thing, okay? So she's the one that made this, and she does a very good job. And if you want to make them yourself, if you have that heavy-duty machine, then the ideal material is 50-50 wool cotton. Okay. So what you're going to do is, let me see, I'm going to move a bunch of stuff off of here. Let's say that Susie Q, pardon me if there's any Susie Qs here, I won't ask, but Susie Q has bronchitis, and she is going to have 3 cycles of hot and cold to her chest. And when you do it for respiratory system, you never, ever do more than 3 cycles for respiratory. And I found that out from personal experience, and I've heard Dr. Wes Youngberg talk about that as well, that for respiratory issues, you never do more than 3 cycles of hot and cold. But if it's for other issues, like you see listed under there, that can be the 3 to 6 cycles of hot and cold. All right, so once you have your fomentation hot and it's steaming, you are then going to be handling it with protection on your hands, okay? No burning allowed, again. When you reach in and take that out, you want to have protection on. And what you're going to do is wrap it up in something, and at home, the easiest thing to wrap it up in is a towel. And I like to tuck the ends in first, and then top and bottom, and that way it's nicely contained. And this side that has one layer of towel, that's the side that's going to go toward the body, okay? So what we're going to do is pretend that Susie Q is sitting here, is laying down on this table, and I'm going to put this towel, bath towel, folded in thirds, so it has 3 layers, and I put that over the chest. And then I pull down the sheet or the blanket that's over her, okay? Because we always want to maintain someone's privacy. So we cover them first with the towel, and then pull down the sheet or blanket that's on top of them, so that now the towel's directly on her skin. And then I'm going to put this nice, fresh, hot fomentation over her on that towel. And I like to put another towel on top of that just to help hold in more heat. And set my timer going for 3 to 5 minutes, okay? Now I also have a basin of ice water with a hand towel next to me. She's on this bed or couch here. I've got my hand towel ready for the cold cycle. Now, if you don't want to have to be running back and forth between the couch and the kitchen to go get your next hot foamy before you do your cold cycles, what you can do is get these hot food bags with the silver lining and fill them up with all of the foamies that you're going to need for that treatment, and be able to have that right next to you at the bedside so that you never have to leave Susie Q's side. But if you don't have something like that, then before it gets to time for cold, then you're going to need to check how the heat's doing, make sure Susie's not burning. Right? If she's burning, we need to get a layer, another hand towel. I've got my stuff over here. You have a stack of hand towels. If Susie Q's getting too hot, then you're going to take that foamy off. You're going to put another layer of towel down, and then ask her again in another 30 to 60 seconds, how's the heat doing? Are you okay? You're not burning. If she gets hot, too hot again, get another hand towel, put another layer down. So a lot of it depends on the combination of their sensitivity to heat and how hot you got the fomentation, okay? So sometimes they'll need extra layers, sometimes they won't. When it gets close to time for cold, you want to go get your next hot fomentation, roll it up, have it next to you, so that as soon as you're done with your cold cycle, you can put that next hot one back on, okay? Quick changes, just like in the shower, quick changes between the hot and cold. So we've got our next hot one ready. We're going to remove this one. We're not going to reuse it. It's not hot enough anymore. And I'm going to squeeze this out from the ice water. And because I still want to maintain Susie's privacy, I'm not going to then just take this towel off of her chest. What I'm going to do is grab the corners of this towel and the corners of the towel on her and drape it across. And that way she was always kept covered. And you do this the same way if you're doing it across someone's glutes for like hip pain. You would do it the same way to always keep them covered. And then you're going to do 30 seconds of friction, okay? So Susie can do her own friction, or if you're doing it for her, then you're going around the breast tissue but not directly over, okay? And they like to count, they appreciate when I count out loud for them so that they know how much time they have. And they're not just sitting there reminding, breathe, well, how much longer do I have? And so just be counting, and that helps calm them down, and they know how long they have to go. And then when you've done your 30 seconds, because after 30 seconds this towel is now warm because you put it on hot skin. So again, you grab the corners of both, you put that towel back on, throw that back in the ice water, grab your next hot one, boom, put it on, and just keep doing the same thing each cycle, okay? So again, for respiratory issues, we only do 3 cycles. For other issues, we can do 3 to 6 cycles. So once you've done the last cold friction, you then need to dry the skin. You don't want to leave the skin wet. So you're going to grab another dry towel, put that across, and then, you know, Susie Q can dry herself off. You pull up the blankets and the sheet, and you pull that towel out, and that's it. So if you had, I saw your hand, if you had heat on her back during this treatment, you would then have her sit up, and you would apply the 30 seconds of cold to the back as well, and then dry it off, and she could lay back down. You're taking away the hot foamy in the towels and everything. And again, if you had heat to the feet, you need to then end with cold there as well. So everywhere hot was applied, you end with cold. If you did this whole thing, instead of having to do that cold friction to the whole body, Susie Q could then just get up and do a cool down shower instead. Okay, that would be an option. But if you did hot and cold to only one area of the body and the whole body wasn't getting hot, then you only need to end with cold to that one area where that contrast was being applied.
How long do you keep the hot on the chest?
3 to 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because same as any other contrast treatment. Yes. All right. Now where did I bury my clicker? There we go. Okay. So cold mitten friction, that is very simple to do. And I kind of gave you an idea by how we ended the fomentation one. That's a form of cold mitten friction. But with cold mitten friction, you have a basin, some container of ice water, and at New Start, we have these mitts that were salvaged out of towels that were stained or ripped and holes and things. You salvage the good parts and sew them into these mitts that we then use to do cold mitten friction. And so we soak this in ice water. If you don't have the mitts, you can do 2 hand towels, or 2 washcloths, so that you then have a washcloth for each hand, and you do the same scrubbing motion. But you're going to wring those mitts out. I like to wear some disposable gloves on my hands under this because this is ice water. Your hands get really cold, the person giving this treatment. But this can be a treatment of its own to a bedridden individual to get their circulation going. If you warm them up first, don't give a cold treatment to a cold person. Okay, they have to be warm first. And this is also a way of ending full body heat treatments. Like I kept saying, either cool down shower or cold mitten friction. This is the cold mitten friction. So you soak that in the ice water, wring them out, put them on, and you're going to be doing just that. you're going to be doing good, quick friction. And it's like I'm going up an arm, right? So I start at the hand, and I go up and do that good, quick friction all the way to the shoulder. So for the extremities, for your arms and your legs, you always want to go toward the heart, because the extremities have valves in the blood vessels that keep the blood from going down, right? And so you want to go in the same direction as those valves, okay? So you go from the hand to the shoulder, you go up from the foot to the hip. The core of the body, it doesn't matter what direction you go. But you're going to be doing that good quick friction. I'll go up an arm twice, and then this side is warmed up because their skin is hot. But this side of the mitt is still cold, so I'll flip them around, and I'll go up 2 more times. And then you re-soak it, and you throw them in there, and you dry the arm off. And then you wring them out again and do the same thing to the other arm, and then dry the arm off. And you do each body part. You do the friction to it, and then you dry it off, and you go to the next body part. Do the friction, dry it off, and go to the next body part, okay? Never leave the skin wet, okay? And that is cold mitten friction. It's very invigorating. And some people find that they tolerate it better than a cool down shower because it's only one body part at a time getting the cold instead of the whole body at once. All right, an ending quote here. The things of nature are God's blessings provided to give health to body, mind, and soul. They are given to the well to keep them well, and to the sick to make them well, like we talked about at the beginning, maintaining and restoring health. Connected with water treatment, in other words, hydrotherapy, they are more effective in restoring health than all the drug medication in the world. I love that quote, of course, as a hydrotherapist, but the efficacy of using water skillfully. You know, like I said, water's not innocuous. It can do harm. You have to know what you're doing. But if you know it by the things that we taught here and what's on your handouts, you know how to use it skillfully for the body and restoring and maintaining health. And the things of nature, you know, for New Start guests, what are those things of nature? It's the nutrition, the exercise, the water, the sunshine, the temperance, the air, the rest. All these things are things of nature. And when they're combined with hydrotherapy, they're more effective than many, many drugs, medications. And so it's a blessing. There is a place for drug medications. You know, we need them at certain times, but not the way they're used nowadays, where it's just popped for everything, right? And so you can save yourself a lot of money just by using water in a skillful way. And so I'm going to do a quick quiz with you. No looking at your handouts or anything, right? Eyes up. I'm going to see what good students you were, okay? So, how long do you do hot? 3 to 5 minutes. That's right. Good job. How long do you do cold? 30 to 60 seconds, yes. And do at least how many cycles? At least 3, right? 3 to 6 was the max. Water's up to how many? Ah, I didn't hit that. Oh, man. Yeah, no looking at the screen. That's right. Usually people have forgotten that because I was way at the beginning of the lecture. But hydrotherapy promotes healing due to increasing the blank, blank, blank. The blood circulation. Increased blood circulation. Okay, and how many degrees of difference do you need between the hot and cold? I keep it, yep, 20, you got that, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And the things of nature connected with water treatment are more effective in restoring health than what? All the drug medication in the world. That's right, good job, you were listening well. Good job, class. Okay. So take this information, start utilizing it on yourself, at home, in your family. But the thing with hydrotherapy is some people are like intimidated, like, oh my goodness, that seems like so much work, especially fomentations. It's not. You know, it's kind of more work for me to explain it than it is to actually do it. And it just takes practice. You know, children can do these things if you teach them how to. They're not hard, but just find those guinea pigs, find your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, you know, and you can share this information. You can be a blessing to strangers. You can find someone that's in the store that you don't even know, and they're standing in line and they're like rubbing their temples. You know they've got a headache. And tell you, have you heard of a hot foot bath? That could help your headache. You know, what are they going to do? They're going to go home and take Tylenol or ibuprofen or something when they could do a hot foot bath and get rid of it that way. We don't have headaches for a Tylenol deficiency in our system, right? You want to work with the body and not just throw Band-Aids at it. And so hydrotherapy is working with the body, is working with the way that God created our bodies, and to bring health and wholeness and balance and restoration and all of that. And so I hope you take this information and utilize it. There is, I wanted to just share real quick, these little tracts or pamphlet-like things that we have created. And you can get them at WeMart, the WeMart. You can call them, they'll ship them to you or whatever. But what it is, it's like a little glow-sized tract, but it's not a glow. Something simple on sharing what is hydrotherapy. And so inside, this is the size of it. Inside is a little introduction to what it is. And then there's a tiny little QR code in here on the inside, and that will take you to tutorial videos of the 3 treatments that are talked about in this pamphlet. And so if someone's more visual, they want to see it, then they can watch the videos, and it's also written here in the pamphlet. And so those 3 treatments are how to do a contrast shower, how to do ice massage, and how to do steam inhalation. So it's a sample of the liquid, steam, and ice, all 3 forms of the water. And then it has some resources here of information, supplies, training. If you want hydrotherapy training, there's online training for it. And then on the very back cover, this large QR code will take you to the newstart.com website. So there's a lot of good little information here to just share with people and be able to hand them out. I only have like 20. If you guys want to buy what's here, that's fine. They're like 50 cents a piece, but I don't have a lot. But like I say, you can get them from the WeMart as well, and you can get them in large quantities if you want to, but that is available.
Are there videos of your presentation like Dr. Nedley has that we could take to our church, or could you come to our church at some point and say later?
Videos of my presentation. On YouTube, I did this full one on the WeMar Church Media website, and they recorded it. And it's like an hour and a half, and that one is on there. I've done it on other ones that have put me up as well, but it's not quite as complete as that one is. Going to other churches, yes, I don't have a ton of time to be doing that because I do work, and so I do that maybe a few times a year, not a lot, and it depends on the distance and everything as well, but it's possible. Yes. Before, during, and after treatments, is there anything I recommend the patient to be drinking? Water. Water. Be hydrated before, be hydrating during, especially full body heat treatments, and then be drinking that water afterwards, yes. And you can even add some things in like electrolytes as well, especially the more full body heat and the more intense. You can add electrolytes to that. Okay, thank you very much.
Learn a few things. We will try to do some. Maybe this evening even. Some of us that are sick. But we'll try to see what you tell is true.
That is on our church website.
On the church website. Okay. Thank you very much. So again, thank you very much everyone for being with us this afternoon. In about 3 weeks, we will start another program. This time is not on health in particular. It may have some health elements. It's a Daniel seminar. We go chapter by chapter through the ancient book of Daniel. If you are interested, we have a few flyers for you. You can take for yourself or for some of your friends. Once again, thank you for coming, and if you don't mind, let us pray one more time. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you very much for every gift we receive from you every day. Give us wisdom how to live healthier and how to honor you with our lives. We give ourselves to you for the rest of the week. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you and have a good rest of the day.